Before we begin, I would like to invite our listeners to help support our podcast and YouTube channel by becoming a Patreon of Vital Bioenergetics. By joining our Patreon, you are not only supporting the free content that we're producing, you will receive coupon codes, special offers, and inside information on the work that we're doing to help humanity raise their vibration to the next level. Please go to www.patreon.com/vitalbioenergetics and become a Patreon today. And now for today's podcast.
Welcome to High Vibes with your host, Bill G. At High Vibes, we're looking into what it means to be a fourth dimensional being in an ever-changing world. We hope that by listening to our podcast, you can feel a greater sense of peace and connection as we collectively raise our energetic vibration to the next level. And now for today's podcast. Hello and welcome to High Vibes. I'm Bill G and I'm here with your frequency upgrade for today. Just so to remind you, a frequency upgrade is a form of Akashic dowsing that exists outside of space-time so that everyone listening to the upgrade will receive its benefits no matter where or when you choose to listen to it. How it works is that just before the podcast, I douse a program or condition that High Self decides that you, our listener, needs to hear, right now. I then provide you with some interpretation and some insight, and then once we're finished, we do a brief meditation so that way you can get the highest benefit from your high self. The title of today's frequency upgrade is to separate from your programming. And I came up with this after I did the dowsing and all of these things came up, and just allow me to explain here. So the first thing that came up from the Chakra Repair and Balancing chart was the universal light field. Now, the Chakra Balancing and Repair chart comes from the work of Cyndi Dale and her wonderful work called The Complete Book of Chakra Healing. And so universal light field is described in her book as follows. The universal light field, also called the zero-point field, is comprised of photons or wave particles of light that interpenetrate all of reality. And because your DNA is made up of light, our health is regulated by our association with that field. So, what is this telling us right off the bat? This is what the framework here is, that we're talking about universal light. We're talking about we are light beings operating within the visible light spectrum, which is our reality, and how our relationship with light frames our reality and brings it all together. The next thing that came up was from the Ascension charts, ancient ancestral constructs. And this particular ancient ancestral construct was separation from source. So what is separation from source? When we become incarnate beings here on the planet, we have what is called the forgetting. Because we are in third density, we have to have this choice point of this service to self or service to others. And in order to have that choice point, we have to separate ourselves from source energy so that we're no longer connected to the collective unconsciousness. Well, as a third dimensional being moving into fourth dimensional being, we are seeking to reconnect to that source energy. The next thing that came up from the Ascension charts was from the blocking constructs. And what came up was cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the condition where your mind holds two contradictory thoughts at the same time. So what is this telling us all together? It's saying that our visible reality, our visible light field that is part of our DNA, is separated from source due to the forgetting, and that forgetting is creating a cognitive dissonance. It's creating a confusion having two contradictory thoughts going on at the same time. And those contradictory thoughts are, do I pay attention to what's going on in front of me in 3D reality, or do I separate from that and move on to more 4D reality, which is connection to love, connection to the collective unconsciousness, connection to the whole of humanity rather than just what's going on in front of us. We're seeing a great deal of this cognitive dissonance going on in the world right now. No matter where you happen to be sitting in the whole controversy surrounding mandates and non-mandates and democracy and freedom and whatever, no matter where you sit on that, there is a great deal of dissonance going on. On the one hand, we're like, I'm all about freedom, but I'm also about safety. Well, you can't have it both ways. Either you are free to make your own choices and free to be your own person and choose your own health, or you are more for, well, we can't trust people to make the right choices for themselves, so therefore we need to mandate things in order for everybody to be safe. And it's not saying that either one of those ideas are wrong, but many of us are holding on to both of those thoughts at the same time, which is a contradiction. It is a cognitive dissonance. You can't be about freedom and also be about totalitarian mandates. You have to be one or the other. I mean, you either are favoring the social contract of giving up your freedom in order to help everybody be collectively safe, or you are, no, I trust people to make the right choices for themselves, and we're just going to leave it at that. Now we're going to move on to the time temple chart, which is where we're going to kind of bring a lot of this together. The highest form is the masters. There's no soul family indicated, but the soul community here are ancestors. The dominant life pattern is royalty or ruling class, and the color is indigo. So this is what's happening right now within our cognitive dissonance. The master. A master is the type of person who has spent many lifetimes building and perfecting a particular craft or skill that may be able to be imparted onto others. They learn by doing, while at the same time they possess an innate talent that they have had since perhaps childhood or early adolescence. On a physical level, they are likely going to be the master of whatever craft or industry that they've been drawn to. On a metaphysical level, masters are those souls who can impart their spiritual practice on others to help bring them back from separation and into the oneness of Source. Now that sounds very great, but when we couple that with ancestors, who are our ancestors? Well, these are the people who have come before us. These are the people who have built our history and built our reality in which we all live. The dominant life pattern of the royalty and ruling class. This is where it gets a little dicey here, because we all like to think of ourselves as being grown-ups or being the example, the parental figure of the younger generation, that we are wiser, that we have more experience, we have more knowledge, and therefore we're in a better position to give that wisdom to other people or to impose our will on other people because, hey, I've been around the block a few times. I can do this better than you can, or at least I can direct you to do this better than you can. That's the old way of doing things. To put that in perspective here, I am the master of my craft. I am the master of life. I'm 51 years old and I've been around for a while. I've worked on my craft. I'm I got my crap together here, and it's based on everything that came before. So I've built up a reality that is something old here, that's always been, and I'm imposing that will on other people in order to maintain some kind of status quo. The color here is indigo. And if you've taken my classes before, you know that being in the indigo color is not a good thing here, because it's a low vibration of the visible light spectrum, which means this is prior lifetime programming coming in. This is stuff that is tainting our perception of the now and allowing us to continue on a path that is been tread hundreds and hundreds of times before. What we need is something different. And that something different also comes from the time temple chart in the form of what we call the highest, most creative path. And that highest, most creative path is coming from the red color spectrum. So that is the highest angstrom of that vibration that is giving us a better idea of what we should be bringing into our conscious attention and not going on with what we've been doing before. The highest form involved here is forces of light. The soul family involved is the grandparent, and the dominant life pattern is the quantum or temporal researcher. We'll start with forces of light here. A person who has the highest form of the forces of light is able to assist humanity in its next transformational stage, whatever that stage happens to be. At this phase in humanity's expression, you are here to awaken other souls and to raise their vibration to a higher level. You are the guru, the enlightened teacher, who by your very presence others are made more aware of the illusion of physical existence, which will help to achieve the planetary shift once a critical mass of beings on this planet can raise their awareness. On a metaphysical level, the forces of light are here to help us bring us back to spirit so that we can all eventually merge back in with the source entity. I like this one a lot because here we have a contrast. Before, we have this idea where you have to just keep going along with what the ancestors have done before. I'm going to learn how to do it. I'm going to become the master of doing it, and then I'm going to tell other people how to do it based on my experience and what I've built up. Instead, what I should be doing is I should be assisting humanity in its next transformational stage, which is that transformation from third density into fourth density. How do I do that? I let go of all of those things that came from my past. The way I believe things should be worked. The way that of the third density, the third dimensional way of doing things, that it's all about money and power and doing things the way I say just because I said so. How we do this is through the quantum or temporal research. Quantum and temporal research is about the science of understanding the space-time connection and the connection of science and spirituality. The bringing together of those ideas of sacred geometry, of letting go of our past, letting go of the way things have been done before in order to accept a new idea of science or a new idea of reality, that we are willing to let go of the old paradigms and we're willing to let go of the old things that have gotten in our way before. It's about embracing something new. And when we combine this with the forces of light, we're seeing that we are putting it all together so that way we can be the vanguards of a new reality, of a new way of being, and not holding on to the way things were in the past. The last thing that came up on this Akashic reading here is from the Spiritual Response Therapy charts on chart 32 checklist. And we go to this chart for what we call a mop-up. The last thing that we do, a little bit of wisdom from Robert Detzler to kind of bring together and put this entire reading into a nice package, so that way we can understand the importance of what we are bringing in and what we need to change. And what came up was hidden beliefs carried by humans transplanted directly from other planets. Humans on this planet have been the subject of 10 major colonizations from other planets on this Earth and 5,000 minor ones over hundreds of millions of years. It is as though the colonists have been subjected to brainwashing so that they do not consciously remember, yet struggle with subconscious memories of their previous lives on their planet of origin. These hidden beliefs can cause problems, so they need to be cleared. I'm currently reading an excellent book right now called America Before by Graham Hancock. And in this book, he provides a tremendous amount of compelling evidence that the old paradigms of how the America was originally colonized by the Native Americans at the close of the last ice age is blatantly wrong. That human habitation of the Americas goes back tens of thousands of years. And these people had a shared ancestry. And this has been proven through DNA evidence and the presence of monumental monuments that incorporate sacred geometry, and these monuments exist in Ohio at Serpent Mound, and in South America in the rainforest. They have found evidence of ginormous earthworks that could have only been accomplished by people who have lived there for thousands of years before the discovery of America by Columbus. The one thing that all of these people had in common was a deep spiritual ancestry. And that deep spiritual ancestry was accessed through the ingestion of ayahuasca, which was also very, very interesting. So bringing this back into our reading here, what this is saying here is that we have a shared ancestry that is deeply spiritual, has a deep connection to source energy. But over time, we have learned to forget all of that, that we instead are focusing on this Western model of evidence and physical things we can touch, see, smell with our five senses. And if it's not something that we can actually touch or carbon date or whatever, then therefore it does not exist. And that neglects our deep spiritual heritage, because as the planet starts to vibrate at a higher level and connects higher to that fourth dimensional idea or that fourth dimensional vibration, we need to be ready for this, and we need to be the vanguards of a new era and not simply hold on to whatever existed in the past. So now we're going to move into the meditation portion of our podcast. So, relax, take a deep cleansing breath, close your eyes if you can, and let's bring into our conscious awareness that we, in our 3D world, have forgotten what it means to be connected to Source, and that we have all bought in to this idea that separation is the natural state of being, and that separation is not the true nature of consciousness. The true nature of consciousness is connection. It's understanding that we are all part of a collective soul memory complex. That we are here on this planet to learn and grow, but to ultimately expand our minds through experience, so that we may one day return to that collective unconsciousness. We do this by connecting to others, to be the teacher, but to be more of a facilitator than a dictator. To take the wisdom that we have gained through this lifetime, and rather than using that to tell other people what to do, we simply open the door and allow them to make their decisions on their own. To trust that with freedom, we have the ability to separate from that old programming, and we will make good choices that are not predicated on things that have happened before. That when given the choice, people will choose to be good to one another. That when given the choice, people will choose to serve others rather than simply serving themselves. We also bring into our conscious awareness the heritage that we have of the beings that we are all connected to throughout the cosmos. That all of those other beings out there whom we share much of our DNA are also on the same path to universal enlightenment and connection to Source. And that you and I and everyone whom you come in contact with are on the same journey to bring us back to Source, to connect to others, and to grow and to learn. The path will not be easy. It will require you to let go of things that you believed to be true in 3D reality. So when you are presented with a choice, you will choose service to others while also choosing service to self in equal measure. And that will bring you closer to Source and you will then be able to lead by example. People will see your balance and experience your balance just by being in the same room with you. And they too will begin to let go of the anxiety and the need to control. And they will simply be. Take a nice, deep, cleansing breath once again. Open your eyes. Feel your hands and your toes. And we will see you next time. Adane. Thank you for listening. For more information about Bill and Nina G, please go to www.vitalbioenergetics.com. See you next time.